Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another NBA 2K22 ratings roster review. My name is Pete Toll, aka PT Sports 84. This is the fourth ratings roster update of the season for NBA 2K22. And so just want to kind of dive into the changes on this one. Um, Not a huge update. I think if I had to guess correctly, we're going to see like a massive update probably right around the trade deadline. That'll be the next biggest leap. And by then, I think badges will be adjusted heavily for teams and things like that. Before I dive into the rating changes, I do want to bring something up, and it's kind of bugged me a little bit, and I don't know why 2K is not able to change this season. It's just simply going into their coach spreadsheet and swapping out the IDs for the coaches. But Luke Walton is still the head coach of the Sacramento Kings, despite being fired on November the 21st. Um, and Alvin Gentry should be in there as the head coach with Mike Longobardi as the assistant coach, or if they really wanted to, because they already have the player face, they could add Stacey Augmon as the assistant coach, and then that way it would be accurate. I just don't understand why Luke Walton is still here when it's that easy of a change. But another disclaimer I want to make, they did not change any player positions in this update at all. And then lastly, before I dive into the rating changes, a couple roster moves that were made. DeJuan Jarreau, who was on a two-way contract, was waived by the Indiana Pacers to make room for Terry Taylor, who has been tearing it up in the G League. Good defender, good rebounder, more of a slasher than a shooter on the offensive end, but they really liked what they've seen so far at Fort Wayne for Terry Taylor, so they added him in. And then also Langston Galloway was added on a hardship exception for the Brooklyn Nets. And then for the Denver Nuggets, Devon Reed, his hardship waiver expired. So he returns to the Grand Rapids Drive of the G League there. So those are the player transactions for this ratings roster update. Now, I like to go by team in order for the ratings changes, and I'm just going to dive through these pretty quickly. I know John Markish, the real 2K insider, will be the one that he does it the best. Dives into the specific stats of each team. So hopefully, he usually puts that out, within the same day, if not the next day. So keep an eye out for John Markish's video for the detailed breakdown of who should have went up, who should have went down, and just kind of analyzing each team. Now, quick overview of the roster. Tobias Harris goes down 1 overall to an 85. Tyrese Maxey drops 1 overall to an 80 overall. Matisse Thybulle drops 2 to a 76 overall. Danny Green also drops to a 76 overall. And then the only one that went up in this update is Georges Niang. He goes +1 to a 76 overall. The Milwaukee Bucks, Chris Middleton drops 1 overall to an 84 overall. Pat Connaughton goes +1 to an 80 overall. DeMarcus Cousins drops 2 to a 75 overall. And then Jordan Nwora goes -1 to a 72 overall. Chicago Bulls, Lonzo Ball goes -1 to an 82 overall. Nikola Vucevic goes -1 to an 81 overall. Alex Caruso, actually he didn't go up. I forgot to remove him from my list. Troy Brown Jr. goes +1 to a 72 overall. And Elise Johnson goes -2 to a 72 overall. Previously, they had added Stanley Johnson on a hardship and then Alfonso McKinney as well. So those changes are in there. Cleveland Cavaliers, they have some changes. Jared Allen goes +1 to an 86 overall. Darius Garland goes +1 to an 85 overall. Kevin Love goes +1 to an 80 overall. Lauri Markkanen drops 1 to a 79 overall. And same with Ricky Rubio dropping 1 to a 79 overall. Jetty Osman goes +2 to a 77, or +1 to a 77 overall. Isaac Okoro goes, where is he? +1 to a 75 overall. And then Lamar Stevens goes +2 to a 72 overall. The Boston Celtics, they have 3 changes. Jaylen Brown goes -1 to an 85 overall. Al Horford goes -1 to an 80 overall. And then Grant Williams goes -1 to a 76 overall. The LA Clippers, who pretty much have been one of the teams that haven't had the best updates as far as thoroughness and detail, they get a number of changes in this one. Paul George goes -1 to an 88 overall. Isaiah Hartenstein goes +1 again to a 78 overall. Terrence Mann goes +1 to a 77 overall. Reggie Jackson goes -1 to a 76 overall. -1 overall for Marcus Morris to a 76 overall. And then Luke Kennard goes +1 to a 76 overall. Serge Ibaka goes -1 to a 74 overall. And one of the biggest movers in this update, +4 overall, Brandon Boston Jr. to a 73 overall. The Memphis Grizzlies, +2 for Jaren Jackson Jr., +1 for Desmond Bane to an 81 overall. Steven Adams goes +1 to an 81 overall. +3 for, where is he? DeAnthony Melton, +2 for Tyus Jones, both to a 79 overall. Then we have John Conchar going to +3 to a 75 overall, and Xavier Tillman +1 to a 77 overall. The Atlanta Hawks, couple minor changes here. Kevin Huerter goes +1 to a 76 overall, so he's slowly creeping upwards there. Lou Williams goes -1 to a 74 overall, and Danilo Gallinari goes +2 to a 78 overall. The Miami Heat, number of changes for them. Kyle Lowry goes +1 to an 82 overall, -1 for Tyler Hero to an 82 overall. Finally, PJ Tucker gets an update, +3 to a 77 overall. Dwayne Dedmon goes +1 to a 77 overall. Caleb Martin goes +1 to a 76 overall. Then +2 for Max Strus to a 75 overall, and +1 for Omer Yurtseven to a 73 overall. So glad to see they finally did some changes to the role players on Miami. Would like to see Markieff Morris go up, a tick or two just to kind of be in line with the rest of these guys. And then Duncan Robinson needs to go up in line with Tucker and Dedmon, in my opinion, since he is still a starter. Charlotte Hornets, Gordon Hayward goes +1 to an 82 overall. Kelly Oubre Jr. Goes +2 to an 81 overall. Cody Martin goes +2 to a 78 overall. And then Nick Richards bumps up 3 to a 74 overall. So those are the changes for Charlotte. They got hit with COVID, so there wasn't going to be a lot of players available through the past number of games to be able to get a true update for the rest of the roster. Utah Jazz, just 2 changes. Donovan Mitchell goes +1 to an 89 overall, and then -1 for Jordan Clarkson to a 78 overall. The Sacramento Kings, 3 changes for them. Harrison Barnes goes down 1 to an 81 overall. Buddy Hield goes down 1 to a 78 overall. And then +3 for Terrence Davis to a 76 overall. Still don't understand how they're not knocking down Tyrese Halliburton to at least on par with Buddy Hield. And then Marvin Bagley hasn't been touched all season. Don't get that. Don't see how Alex Len doesn't go up in rating a little bit since he's been starting. You know, like I said, John Marcus will have more insight as far as the Sacramento Kings and the rest of the NBA goes. So curious to see what his thoughts are on that. The New York Knicks, a couple minor changes here. Emmanuel Quickly goes -2 to a 77 overall, -1 for the struggling Evan Fournier. And then Quentin Grimes goes +3 to a 74 overall. Had one big game and now has been out with COVID, but you know, he goes up. Would like to see Taj Gibson go up a little bit. Alec Burks go up. RJ Barrett needs to go down. You know, just things like that. But, you know, we'll see. I did not note, you know, as far as, you know, diving deep into the stats. So there could be more to the Knicks maybe there. But, you know, we'll see. The Los Angeles Lakers, -1 for Russell Westbrook. Dwight Howard goes down only 1 point, but then they leave DeAndre Jordan at a 77. I just don't understand what's going on with rating this team at all. It's terrible. Howard and Jordan need to be down more than this. Malik Monk goes +1 to a 75 overall. Orlando Magic, -1 for both Cole Anthony and Wendell Carter Jr., both now an 82 overall, +3, well-deserved for Franz Wagner to an 80 overall, so I agree with that change. Jumo Kiki goes -2. He's been struggling really bad. He's a 72 overall, and that's the changes for them. Two very minor changes for the Dallas Mavericks. Disappointed in this one for the Mavericks for sure. Maxi Kleber goes -1 to a 75 overall. And then Josh Green goes +3 to a 74 overall. They still haven't touched Trey Burke. Willie Cauley-Stein's been out, but he hasn't been touched all season. I think Dorian Finney-Smith could go up. I don't know what's happening this year, to be honest, as far as the ratings go. Brooklyn Nets, James Harden goes -2 to an 89 overall, but then they still have Damian Lillard at a 90 overall. I don't understand. Patty Mills goes -1 to a 77 overall. DeAndre Bembry goes -2 to a 74 overall. James Johnson goes +1 to a 73 overall. Cam Thomas goes +2 to a 73 overall. They still didn't bump up LaMarcus Aldridge from previous. I don't know. Kevin Durant should have been a 97, in my opinion. So should Giannis. But, you know, that's just my opinion. The Denver Nuggets, Monte Morris goes +3 to a 79 overall. Will Barton goes -1 to a 79 overall. Zeke Nnaji goes +3 to a 75 overall. It is what it is. Indiana Pacers, Domantas Sabonis goes +1 to an 87 overall. Malcolm Brogdon goes -1 to an 84 overall. And then all the way down here, Kalon Martin goes -2 to a 72 overall. No update for anybody kind of in the middle to drop them down since they've been struggling. You know, it is what it is, I guess. New Orleans Hornets, Brandon Ingram goes back up one, dropped last update. He goes +1 to an 84 overall. Josh Hart goes minus. Actually, no, Josh Hart stays the same here. Not quite sure how I scrambled that one in my notes, but that is, you know, not true. I think I was changing Devontae Graham in my notes and accidentally put Josh Hart in there. But Devontae Graham, yes, Devontae Graham goes -2 to a 77 overall. Nikhil Alexander-Walker goes -1 to a 75 overall. And then Garrett Temple drops 1 to a 72 overall. Detroit Pistons, Cade Cunningham goes +1 to a 79 overall. Sadiq Bey drops heavily, drops 3 overall to a 75. Hamidou Diallo goes +1 to a 75 overall. Josh Jackson goes -1 to a 73 overall. The Toronto Raptors, Shvi Mikhailuk goes -1 to a 76. Precious Achiuwa goes -1 to a 75. And then Yuta Watanabe goes +1 to a 75. Houston Rockets, don't get this one either. We'll talk about it in a second. Jayshawn Tate goes +1 to a 79 overall. Eric Gordon goes +1 to a 78 overall. But then Garrison Matthews hops up to a 77 overall over Kevin Porter Jr. and Jalen Green. I think a 76 would have been just fine to put him in line with them. Speaking of Jalen Green, he goes -2 to a 76 overall. That's overdue, but then he's not been playing for the past 6 games. So, I don't know what the criteria is for 2K to update stuff, but whatever. Armani Brooks goes +3 to a 74 overall. And then we have DJ Augustin going +1 to a 73 overall. Josh Christopher bumps +3 to a 73 overall. Daniel House goes a -1 to a 71 overall. The San Antonio Spurs, Derek White goes +2 to a 79 overall. He's been playing a lot better lately. No changes elsewhere. As far as the starters, the bench guys, Bryn Forbes goes +1 to a 74, and then Trey Jones goes +1 to a 73. Going to the Phoenix Suns, how in the heck they drop Chris Paul another point? I don't know. He's to an 88 overall. But JaVale McGee goes up +2 to a 79 overall. Cam Payne goes -1 to a 75. And then Landry Shamet goes -1 to a 74. The Oklahoma City Thunder get 2 changes, both which I just don't even understand. Darius Bazley +1 to a 73, even though he's been playing well the past 5 games. He should at least be in line with these guys at a 74, if not up here at a 75, since Poku's been playing terrible and Bazley's playing a lot better. But, whatever. Kendrick Williams goes +1 to a 74 overall. The Minnesota Timberwolves, just 2 changes. Jared Vanderbilt goes +2 to a 79 overall, well deserved. And Anthony Edwards drops 1 to an 84 overall because before last night's game, which they don't count Wednesday's games, Anthony Edwards was struggling, so I could see why that change was put in. Portland Trailblazers, Ben McLemore goes +4 to a 75 overall. Robert Covington goes -1 to a 74. Dennis Smith Jr. goes +2 to a 74. And then Tony Snell goes -1 to a 73 overall. It is what it is there. Golden State, finally, Gary Payton Jr. is updated. He actually goes +5. Biggest mover in the entire update. 77 overall now, which is way past deserved. But glad they finally got him in there, updated. And then Damian Lee goes down a point to a 75 overall. The Washington Wizards, couple changes for them. Spencer Dinwiddie goes -1 to an 81. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope goes -1 to a 75. And then Bradley Beal drops 2 to an 87 overall. Like I said, no position changes in this update. Just wanted to do this quick run-through video so that way anybody that's looking for the changes and just kind of wanted to highlight those could know what was updated and what was not. Let me know down in the comments who you think should have went up in overall and why they should have went up. Give me some stats to back up your claim, or give me some stats to back up your claim on why a player should have went down over the last 2 weeks. As always, if you like this video, please like it and subscribe to the channel. I try to put out 2K content as much as the rosters are updated with viable info that I think is good for the community to know. Thanks everybody for watching, and I will catch you on the next update.